marriage is a contract between the government and men to take care of a woman. Make no mistake about this, guys. This is what marriage essentially is. And I'm not talking about providing for a woman. I'm not talking about the concept of love, the concept of taking care of a woman through the course of her life. That stuff is all good. I'm talking about the legal component of that. Marriage is a contract between the government and men to take care of a woman for the rest of her life as basically the resource provider, with the laws stacked against him in a way where he's basically just on the hamster wheel his entire life, to where she actually benefits from breaking that contract, whether that's through alimony or the child support or just custody of whatever assets they've acquired over that time. The man is typically going to be the breadwinner, and even if he's not the breadwinner, there's still the concept of, oh, well, it was probably the man's fault as to why this whole thing messed up. And see, this is funny too, because women will say, well, women can make just as much money as men and they can make more. But for the most part, we're not seeing women being attracted to guys that they're doing better than, right? The women don't want Brad, the grocery store clerk. They want Chad, the millionaire, because it just makes more sense biologically and spiritually with the way testosterone is, estrogen, male, female, dominant, submissive, and all of that. And yes, there's not specific gender roles in terms of 100% of the time it's going to be this way, but there tends to be a reason why certain genders fall in line with certain roles. Like there's a reason that men tend to be in the military more, or tend to do things in terms of manual labor. There's just a reason that they gravitate to those areas just based on how we're set up biologically and spiritually. So when it comes to these marriage contracts, you've got to really understand that there's a certain way that society needs to be structured, because we want structured society in some sense. We don't want a free-for-all. So what the government does is essentially creates this system to kind of keep order. So even if the intentions behind a certain marriage are good and pure, the whole legal part is to kind of keep this order in society, because when it comes to raising the next generation, it does make more sense to have a stable family with a father and a mother raising the children. So marriage in one sense has a purpose, ideally, in the idealistic sense. But when you add the legal component and you stack the laws against the man, then you add to the fact, well, a human doesn't own another human to begin with. Things change in the course of time. So if you already know going through high school, college, after college, that a certain person might have a high school girlfriend and then a college girlfriend, or whether they're sleeping around a lot or they wait for marriage or whatever the case may be, you know at a certain point in your life that humans are not just monogamous. As much as we might say, oh, well, this is the one, or this is my person for life, most people are not going to be with one person their entire life, relationship-wise or sexually or any of that. So knowing the fluid nature of things, and knowing that things can change based on your job and your finances, your looks, your career, your place on the totem pole, your SMV, your sexual market value, knowing that you're not ever the only option and that you don't own that person, to sign a lifetime contract where you're binded to that person creates a lot of stress in different ways that a lot of people aren't really prepared for. So it's not to say to completely give up on women forever, or to not pursue a relationship if that's something you want to do, but you got to understand the legal component. Because say you do have millions of dollars in the bank and you can actually provide for a woman, and you meet someone that you're compatible with and you want to go the distance with her, it makes more sense to just provide for her anyways. And then if it breaks off for whatever reason, you don't have the legal component tying you to that person for the rest of your life. If the other person wants to leave, then you both can leave in your respectable way. But when you have that legal component, now you got to get the lawyers, you got divorce court, you've got future earnings of yours that are being invested in this person who decided that they wanted someone else now. And this is where a lot of women protest this kind of ideology, because a lot of them are looking for that security, that financial security, the emotional security. And so they don't want men to view marriage in this way, because if enough men are viewing marriage in that way, then a lot of them are going to lose out on their ability to cash in on that resource provider. And they'll say, oh, well, if you really loved me, you would get married. You could just turn that around too and say, well, if you really loved me, you wouldn't need a government or a priest to sanctify what it is that we have. If I have the money that I have and I can provide for you in whatever way, whether that's with a house, food on the table, a comfortable lifestyle, I'll just provide that because I just want to, because you're a cool girl and we're chilling and I want you to have good things. But the second that you don't want me, why would I just be tied to that for the rest of my life? It really doesn't make any sense. But a lot of people, they buy into that blue pill ideology, that concept of this is the one, it's going to last forever, she's never going to see another guy other than me. And it's pretty naive because you don't own her in the first place and you're not her only option. So when you get married, you're basically just signing a contract between you and the government to take care of this woman for the rest of your life and the rest of her life, knowing that the laws are stacked against you, knowing that men are always going to be seen as wrong. Because when you look at the way society is set up too, things are catered in a way in terms of the elderly, women, children coming first, as that would make sense. Men being the testosterone, able-bodied, older, alpha leaders. So it just falls in line that men are going to be doing more things to take care of the less able. But because of that, men kind of get the short end of the stick on a lot of things, where you're not really seen as credible, or, oh, just suck it up, just be a man, or you're not supposed to show emotions, you're not supposed to cry, you're a man. So it's always the elderly, women, and children, whereas the man is just thrown out to the wolves and, oh, fend for yourself, kind of like a lion pride, where a lion, alpha lion, will have a harem of female lionesses, and as the children grow up and the males reach sexual maturity and start to grow their mane and start to challenge the authority of the other males, they get kicked out of the pride because it's just the natural way that the nature lines up of that. So then they have to go and fend for themselves. Kind of like when you're growing up and everything's catered towards children in terms of school and parents not caring about spending anything on you as a child because you're not able to take care of yourself. So your parents are going to give you all this money, society will give you this money and all this help. But then as you grow up in the world, say you're in high school, you're a 14-year-old kid, oh, he's just a kid, we can still take care of him, he's still trying to learn, we should help him out. Even at 18, going to college, he's still a kid technically, even though it's a legal adult at 18. We still consider him a kid. He's trying to figure out his major. He's trying to figure out what he's doing in college. He's growing up. He's not a fully mature man yet. But then you reach like 25, 30, and so on, and you're just this grown man with a full beard, a lion's mane, and you're just thrown out to the rest of the wolves. Nobody cares about you anymore. So knowing that that's going to happen, and knowing that you're just going to be this chump provider, that no one's really going to care about your side of the story or your end of it, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to sign that lifetime contract. Because in the same way too, that in this new era of feminism and sexual liberation, where everyone says, well, I can be with who I want and do what I want and have the choices to do that, and it's not the man being the stud and the woman being a slut kind of thing. And I agree, a woman can do whatever she wants. If she wants to never have sex, if she wants to save it for marriage, if she wants to have sex with 1,000 guys, that's on her. But say she chooses to do that on her own choice, by her own admission, and say, I've been working my whole 20s. If I turn 30, I'm 27 now, if I work the next 3 years and I turn 30 and I have something of real ability to provide something, why do I just have to take someone that has already been with 1,000 guys, that is going to look to me as if I owe her something, when I could have the choice to be with anybody, whether it's I've already worked as a man in my 20s, and if I turn 30 in 3 years, you have the age range where you're going to notice that there's women from all age ranges that find you attractive, whether that's from the teenagers, legal age of consent, up to older women. So this woman coming along looking for marriage or looking for security, it's like, yeah, I'm not going to judge you on your past or your sexual history or all that, but what is the incentive for me to sign this legal contract? If you've already been with 1,000 guys, why would I sign a contract being guy number 1001 when at any moment you can cast me aside by your own admission of your own choice for guy 1002? Again, she has the choice to do that. If I'm guy 1001, she casts me aside for guy 1002, that's her choice. But again, what's the incentive for me to have a legal piece of paperwork where I'm just giving resources and money because she made the decision to go to guy 1002? So it's not about judging anybody, men or women, on their past or their choices or who they're with, but it's about the constant legal ramifications of that when it comes to marriage and what you're getting yourself into. So definitely, this isn't to say to completely give up on women or not have women in your life, but when you get into the legal part of marriage, of what it actually is, it's a contract between the government and men to take care of a woman for life for the purposes of resources, emotional security, financial security, and their perception, society's perception of what's going to keep society structured. Because if there's too many strong single men that are aware of this stuff, then people feel like society is going to get all unbalanced. That's the biggest threat that people think there is a strong, single, unmarried man with no kids, no commitments. If you're owning a business and you want to hire someone and you don't want to do a bunch of rehiring and you want to keep someone long term, who are you going to hire if you have two prospective candidates? The married guy who's tied with the contract and with kids, and you know where he stands, you know he's not going to leave, you know he can't rock the boat? Or are you going to hire the single guy that could just leave you at any point? More times than not, the company's going to hire the married guy because they know he needs the job. They know the legal stuff that he got into. They know the kids that he's taking care of. Same thing with the whole threat thing I was just talking about. The lion as a cub isn't threatening because it was just born the other day, just a little tiny cat. It's cute. As the male lion grows up, sharp teeth, huge mane, can kill anything. Now it's a threat. So that's what society is going to think of a strong single male. So that's why they're going to push this whole marriage thing. And it's not to say that it's a bad idea to, if you want to do the monogamous, just you and her, that's your own choice of what you're going to do in life. But just understand the legal ramifications of that, because it is a contract between the government and men to take care of a woman for the rest of her life. You got to really think of what you're getting yourself into if you do choose to go the marriage route. I would advise not to do that because you can get the same benefits anyways. People say, well, marriage is for love, or it's for children, or it's for... Well, you can get love outside of a marriage contract. You can have children outside of a marriage contract. You can be a good man and take care of women outside of a marriage contract. You can have all the money in the world, all the time in the world, be loving, be there for her. You could have enough money to make sure that she doesn't have to work, and you could provide that for her indefinitely. But the second that she decides, hey, that other man is a little bit better than you, it's a better fit, and he's higher on the pole than you, and I want him instead of you, again, that is fine. That's her choice. She can do that, and we're not going to cast judgments. Why would I sign this piece of paper, though, that over the next 50 years I'm just owing something because I signed on the dotted line?